On July 7, 1937, over the Yongding River on the outskirts of Beijing, then called Beiping, the stone lions on the 700-year-old Lugo Bridge stood silent. Yet the air was thick with suffocating tension. Around midnight, the piercing crack of gunfire abruptly shattered the stillness of the summer night. Under the pretext of a missing soldier, the Japanese army brazenly shelled Wanping Town. It was a long-planned war breaking out on full blast. In defense, China's 29th Army fought back with pent-up fury. The gunfire at the Lugo Bridge was like a thunderclap, echoing across the North China Plain and opening the bloody prelude to the Asian theater of World War II. The next day, radio waves from cave dwellings in Yan'an broadcast at the most urgent frequency the proclamation of the Communist Party of China across the globe. Beiping and Tianjin are in peril. North China is in peril. The Chinese nation is in peril. Only through a war of resistance by the entire nation can we find our way out. These words carried the weight of national survival and struck like thunder. An ancient nation, humiliated, bloodied, and in flames, was jolted awake. Amid the storm of the fight for national survival, propelled by the advocacy of the CPC and the surging tide of popular fury, the attitude of Nanjing changed reluctantly. On July 17, in a statement at Lushan Mountain, Chiang Kai-shek's voice carried unprecedented gravity and resolve. There is no more room for compromise. Once the war begins, everyone, young or old, everywhere must take up their responsibility to resist and defend our land. This crucial declaration marked the moment when the leadership of the nationalist government was finally pushed to wage a nationwide war against Japan. However, at the last second before all hope for peace was lost, 100,000 Japanese troops had already encircled Beiping and Tianjin in an ironclad siege. Beiping fell. So did Tianjin. North China was in crisis. Shanghai was in peril. In early August, Zhou Enlai, Zhu De and Yi Jianying, as representatives of the Communist Party of China, were received in the halls of the nationalist government in Nanjing. Before the greater cause of national survival, differences must be set aside. The negotiation resulted in the main forces of the Red Army being reorganized as the 8th Route Army of the National Revolutionary Army. Its general headquarters was established and offices were opened. Xinhua Daily was granted permission to report. All of this was beyond a peace of agreement. It was a historic handshake between the two major parties in China. Once locked in mortal struggle, now united in defiance of death for the survival of the nation. On August 22, 1937, the nationalist government's military commission gave the order of reorganization. On August 25, the directive of the CPC Central Military Commission echoed across the Lus Plateau in northern Shaanxi province. The Red Army soldiers marched to the front lines wearing the new emblem. Yet this was no simple change of insignia. It was an act of devotion for them to willingly merge into the great tide of the war of resistance for national survival. Under the command of Zhu De and Peng Dehuai, the 46,000-strong 8th Route Army, comprising the 115th, 120th, and 129th Divisions, swore their oaths with steel resolve. Without waiting for full reorganization, they marched eastward across the Yellow River, straight into the teeth of the Japanese advance. While the Nationalist Central Army conducted strategic withdrawals along the Beijing-Wuhan, Tianjin-Nanjing, Beijing-Suiyuan railway lines, the CPC-led Iron Forces charged without hesitation into the fiercest flames of battle in North China. On September 22, the Kuomintang Central News Agency finally published the announcement of the Communist Party of China on the KMT-CPC cooperation. The following day, Chiang Kai-shek gave a public speech acknowledging the CPC's legitimate status. At that moment, the National United Front Against Japanese Aggression, with KMT-CPC cooperation at its core, was formally forged, catalyzed by the gunfire over the Lugo Bridge and the fervent hopes of the nation. Support was expressed by democratic parties and groups, patriotic groups, local governments, military commanders. Voices from across the nation and overseas converged into one resounding cry: support KMT-CPC cooperation and stand together in national crisis. The gears of the united front now drove the chariot of nationwide resistance. Across China, an unprecedented, all-encompassing war of resistance was unfolding. 10,300 Red Army guerrilla in 8 provinces in South China: Sichuan, Jiangxi, Guangdong, Zhejiang, Fujian, Hubei, Hunan, and Anhui, were reorganized to form the new Fourth Army, led by General Yi Ting, who answered the call in perilous times. The 115th Division of the 8th Route Army in North China crossed the Yellow River eastward even before finishing re-equipping. The news of the first major victory at the Battle of Pingsingwen, where over 1,000 Japanese troops were annihilated, ignited cheers along the 1,000-mile supply lines of the Nanyang volunteer drivers and mechanics. While the 8th Route Army attacked the enemies in North China, hundreds of thousands of Chinese fought bitterly in the Battle of Shanghai. The 800 heroes held firm at the Sihong warehouse, and female textile workers braved the rain to deliver ammunition and supplies. On the day Nanjing fell, the flickering oil lamps in the cave dwellings of Luochuan bore witness to the birth of guerrilla warfare strategy, a spark that would soon ignite the earth-shaking flames of the 100 Regiment's offensive. Waves of resistance swept across China. The soldiers of the 8th Route Army marched toward the front lines in straw sandals, with crude weapons and high morale, against the tide of retreat. Their target, the firing line where Japanese invaders wreaked havoc. They fought bloody battles and pressed forward dauntlessly. Everywhere they went, they rekindled hopes of the tormented people. This was no war of a single party or faction. It was the collective roar and oath of 450 million Chinese people, transcending class, region, and beliefs. There were no fortifications like the Maginot Line, only a great wall forged from the flesh and blood of millions of Chinese sons and daughters. The war erupted in China in July 1937, while Poland did not see the flames of war until September 1939. From 1937 to 1940, China bore the brunt of over 1 million Japanese troops. When the gunfire at the Lugo Bridge thundered on July 7, 1937, the world had not yet fully awakened. The Nazis' iron heel had not yet trampled across all of Europe. Soldiers of the U.S. Pacific Fleet still enjoyed their sun-basked holidays. At the time, China alone shouldered the heaviest responsibility of confronting fascism and thus endured its most savage early expansion. With immense sacrifice, China pinned down the main force of Japanese militarism and bought precious time for the World Anti-Fascist Alliance, thus changing the course of the World War II.